We're comparing all the differences between Indian takeout in the US and UK. This is Food Wars. Let's compare one of the UK's favourite curry dishes, chicken tikka masala. Here's the one we got today. It's probably more on the orange side compared to some of the very vibrant red ones that you will see in the UK. To me, this seems like a pretty standard portion. Slight problem, it's too heavy for our scales. The scales we have in the UK only go up to around 550 grams. These aren't much heavier than that. I'd hazard a guess at maybe 650 grams. I'm going to fish out all the pieces, put them in here, and then weigh it to see who's getting more pieces and how much they weigh. 1, 2,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
9.
9.
Now that I've got the chicken out of it, this actually might be light enough to weigh it on its own as well. So the sauce weighed 290 and the chicken weighed 350. So I was actually pretty close with my guess. I think in total this came to around 640 grams.
I am going to weigh it in the container it comes in. It shouldn't contribute that much to the final weight. Whoa, okay. For once, we're coming out under. We are at 586 grams for the chicken tikka masala versus the UK's 650 grams. That's a pretty decent amount.
Moving on to samosas, although I will say this can vary wildly in the UK depending on where you're ordering from. But today, we got a portion of 3 samosas. I would describe these as medium size, maybe on the smaller side as far as samosas go. I have seen ones kind of like this big before. Trying to gesture for a big one.
We only get 2 here in the US. I think this also varies place to place, the amount, the sizes. I can already tell that these are way bigger than the samosas we saw from the UK, but let's see how big they are. So in the US, we get 1 piece of naan. It is quite large.
If you order naan in the UK, they typically just give you 1 piece. We're also gonna weigh it.
I would say that this naan looks thinner than the one in the UK. It does look a little flatter.
This looks pretty good. It's like decently thick, particularly around the outsides. Plenty of garlic and herbs on top. In the UK, it's pretty common to enjoy some rice with your curry, although it's often shared between 2 people. Here is some UK rice, served in one of the iconic folding foil boxes. This is just plain rice. Pilau is maybe more popular.
In the US, curry and rice usually come in separate containers like this. The rice is usually basmati or jasmine, some kind of long grain rice. Also, if I'm saying anything incorrectly, I'm so sorry. A major difference between US Indian takeout and UK Indian takeout is that our curries usually always come with a side of rice, like automatically. You don't have to add them on as an additional side. Let's weigh our rice. Here's everything you can order for takeout at an Indian restaurant in the US that you might not be able to find in the UK.
Here is everything you'll find on a UK Indian takeout menu. I finally know how Smithy felt.
Some of the dishes we're going to be talking about you'll see in both countries, but we still wanted to compare them just to see what the difference really is. First up, we've got our butter curries. Like the name suggests, this base is made up of butter, tomatoes, onions, and spices, and it has a really creamy texture. It's not very spicy at all.
Butter chicken is a pretty popular choice in the UK. It's similar in spice to korma, which I would say is the other one that people order if they don't really like spice, but they still want to enjoy a tasty curry. I do have a soft spot for butter chicken. I didn't really used to like spicy food, so korma and butter chicken were like my gateway into Indian food. As the name suggests, buttery, creamy, rich, very tasty.
So here we have our butter paneer, our butter chicken, and butter salmon, which confused me. I had never heard of it before, but I feel like we have to try it because of that. I don't really like salmon. I should start off by saying that I don't really like cooked salmon. Raw salmon, I can eat it all day. These are huge chunks of salmon. I'm mostly just tasting the curry, which is why I think I don't hate it. The texture is not as good, in my opinion, than a chicken or probably the paneer, but it's not bad because you mostly just taste the curry, so it covers up any other flavors. The texture kind of reminds me of tofu, but it's so good.
We have the chicken tikka masala. It's a slightly spicier and tangier curry when compared to something like a korma or a butter chicken. Again though, it's still a very approachable level of spice, kind of almost designed to suit the British palate, you know, nothing too extreme. I love this. There's a reason that Brits love this thing so much. It's just so tasty. It does vary depending on the place that you get it from. The color can change a lot. This one is a nice like burnished orange color. One thing that you'll find on a UK Indian takeout menu is that you can customize the protein that you put in the curry. The general options will include chicken, lamb, vegetables, king prawn, and maybe some others as well.
Moving on to our tikka masalas, we have paneer, chicken, shrimp, lamb, and vegetable. I have to try the shrimp. I've never had shrimp tikka masala in my life, and that just sounds really good to me. I love shrimp. I wouldn't say that this shrimp is particularly prawn-sized, like as big as a shrimp in the UK, but this is a hearty shrimp to me. The texture of the shrimp definitely feels a little too hard, like it was overcooked, but it still tastes good. It tastes like shrimp in a very delicious curry, which is what it is. I honestly feel like the proteins or the vegetables in curries don't really influence the taste of them to me a lot. It's just like a texture thing for me. Compared to the butter chicken, I would say that the tikka masala curry is a bit tangier. I felt like the butter chicken is softer in terms of flavor, maybe even a little sweeter. But yeah, there's definitely a difference.
Then today we also got a chana masala. As you can see by the sheer quantity of them in this dish, chana refers to chickpeas in a curry dish.
Here we have our vegan masala dishes. So this one here is mushroom masala. Then we have chana masala. And finally, bindi masala, which I believe is okra. I hate mushrooms, so I will not be trying the mushroom masala. Sorry about it. I think you can tell by looking at all three of our vegan masala options that they're not the same base. Some are more runny, while some are a bit more dry. Let's take a bite of the chana masala. I like this texture so much more. I think it's just because you can really get like the crunch of a chickpea. That's really good. It's not spicy at all. Now let's take a bite of the bindi masala. I don't think I know what okra tastes like, so this will probably be my first time trying it. It might be my last time having okra. I don't like the texture. The base itself is really tasty. It's really like, I keep using the same words, but it's got a lot of acid, it's got some bite, a little bit of heat, it's yummy. One of the spicier curries is vindaloo. It still contains some of the classic curry ingredients like onions, but gets more of a bite with the addition of ingredients like hotter chilies and vinegar. Vindaloo is traditionally a Goan recipe, but it's actually a version of a Portuguese dish called
carne de vinho e alhos.
So here we have vegetable, chicken, and lamb vindaloo. I definitely smell the spice already, so I think these are gonna be pretty spicy. Vindaloo is one of those things that I do order often if I'm going to an Indian restaurant, but the spice levels vary. I haven't had a lamb dish yet, so let's dig into the lamb vindaloo. Here's a huge piece of lamb. You can definitely taste the addition of that vinegar in the curry itself. It's got a really nice acidic tang to it. The meat is perfectly cooked. It is spicy, but I'm okay. And I don't have a very high spice tolerance, and this is pretty good for me.
I will say British people really love vindaloos. They're kind of a cult classic over here. When curry houses were really taking off in popularity in the UK, which was around the 70s, the vindaloo was often the spiciest thing on the menu. The dish's cult status among blokes was kind of cemented in 1998 when the band Fat Les released a song called Vindaloo. The song went on to become one of the unofficial anthems for the English national football team and is still sung to this day. Speaking of vindaloo, we do actually have one here, alongside a bunch of other curry dishes which you might typically find on a British Indian restaurant menu. In this case, the vindaloo actually was the spiciest dish on the menu at this place, so maybe not the smartest one to start at, but when has doing stupid stuff ever stopped me in the past? Yeah, it's got some heat. Oh no. I think lamb works so well with that because it's a really rich, savory meat. Next up here, we have a lamb Rogan Josh. I'd say a Rogan Josh is probably more of a medium on the spice scale. It's a Kashmiri dish originally, I believe, and generally is flavored with quite a lot of tomato and peppers. I went lamb for this one as the meat as well. Very tomatoey. You get like the sweetness and the tang from the tomatoes there. Next up, we have a Madras curry. Generally speaking, on a British Indian takeout menu, you'll see the curries kind of organized by spice. Vindaloo is usually number one. You might see a fal, which can be even higher than vindaloo. And then generally it's Madras, pretty close to that, but below it. Madras actually gets its name because it was named after the city of Madras, which these days I think is called Chennai. It gets most of its spice just from chili powder. Peppery I would describe that as. Then the next one we have here is a danzak. There's a lot of history behind this one. It kind of fuses Persian flavors with flavors from India. It's actually made with lentils, in addition to a bunch of other spices. Things like chili, ginger, cumin, and much, much more. Yeah, you get a real richness from those lentils, actually. Next up is a patia. This one, in terms of like a broad flavor description, I would say is more like sweet and sour. Generally made with tamarind, in addition to the tomato paste and the chili. They just complement each other so well. When you're looking at a British Indian takeout menu, it's hard to look past chicken korma. I'd say korma is probably even more gentle than butter chicken in terms of the spice level. This is very much your entry-level curry. If you've never tried Indian food before, you're very scared of spice and flavor, get a korma, ease yourself in, dip your toes in the delicious korma bath. The color of this is always great. It's always vibrant yellow. Effectively, they're using kind of like no chili powder whatsoever in this, so it's not getting any of that red-orange color. My brother used to work in an Indian restaurant, and the owner said that to most Indians, that's kind of like a dessert. It's that level of like sweetness and creaminess. Moving on, another dish you'll find at most UK curry houses is a balti. Balti's got an interesting origin story. There are rumours that it was created in the UK in a curry house in Birmingham, although I actually don't think that's true. From what I was able to find, it was actually more from the Baltistan region. It's another one that I would say is kind of like medium to maybe even medium low on the spicy scale. Generally quite like garlicky, fragrant curry. Next up we have a boona. Boona is another iconic UK curry house dish, in part thanks to the iconic Gavin and Stacey bit with Smithy's order. You can probably tell from the colour it's slightly darker than some of the other ones that we've got here. This is actually generally because the way that it's cooked is that they cook it on quite a high heat, so you caramelize the ingredients a bit more, and you really produce this kind of like rich, deep flavour. Shout out to the Taste of Raj for their gigantic prawns. Boona is beloved in the UK, and with flavours like that, you can see why. Next up we have the do pyaza. So do pyaza actually means 2 onions in Urdu. As you will see, generally speaking, has quite a lot of onion in it. It's sometimes topped with onion as a garnish right at the end. Then finally we have a methi. So methi is actually the Gujarati word for fenugreek, which is a herb which is pretty commonly used across a range of curries. Overall, we just seem to have a lot more options for curries than the US does. That way people can try a little bit of everything. For good representation of a typical British curry house order, and also a window into the politics that can arrive when you're sharing dishes, go and watch the clip from Gavin and Stacey, because it really is pretty iconic.
Next, let's go through our saag options. Saag is a dish that uses leafy green vegetables like spinach, mustard greens, fenugreek, or dill. We have saag paneer, lamb saag, aloo saag, chicken saag, and chana saag. I really want to try the chana saag, so let's take a bite of this one. Look at all those chickpeas. This tastes like it's good for you, which might be why I'm not loving it. I just feel like compared to the curries we've tried today, the samosas, pakoras, like, I don't know, it just feels like the flavor's kind of like a little low with this. There's nothing like really jumping out at me. I need a little more. It just tastes leafy, because it is leafy. There's a ton of leaves in it. I'm gonna try a meat saag just to see if there's a little bit more flavor. Chunky, chunky meat. Okay, let's try it. Let's try one bite.
Here we have a saag paneer. Paneer, of course, being that kind of quite firm Indian cheese. I love paneer. And then we also have a saag aloo. Both of these are great. I pretty much always order a saag paneer if I'm getting it Indian takeout. I'd say these are the main saag dishes that you might find on a UK curry house menu. Now, a classic British starter at an Indian takeout is an onion bhaji. It's basically just shredded onion. You then toss it in some flour, a bunch of seasonings, and fry it to form a bhaji. Yeah, I think this one's lost some of its crisp in transit, but very tasty, well flavored. I'm a fan. Here we have a sheikh kebab. So what they do here is to take a lamb mixture, well spiced again, kind of mold it around skewers, and then either fry it or sometimes put it in a tandoor oven. Here we have chicken pakoras. Sometimes on Indian restaurant menus in the UK, you will see pakora and bhaji kind of used similarly or kind of interchangeably. Pakora in general can refer to kind of anything. So that includes things like meat. Obviously we have chicken pakora here. I also had a haggis pakora in Scotland one time. Fascinating stuff, pretty tasty. Next up we have lamb chops. Now these are a slightly fancier starter, I suppose. I wouldn't see these on a ton of orders. I don't know, man, Indian restaurants do lamb very well. This next starter here is a king prawn butterfly. There's a lot of prawn on Indian restaurant menus in the UK. It's more common to include prawn as a kind of seafood or pescatarian option than it is to include just fish. It's pretty good. It is also seen as generally more of like a premium option. I feel like king prawn versions of a curry will cost a little bit more than the chicken or maybe the lamb. I don't know how typical this one is, but it was on the menu today, so we ordered it. This one is a grilled salmon starter. It's like a marinated salmon being grilled there, some good color on the skin. The last one that we have here is a king prawn puri. This doesn't look like any of the puri that I've seen before. Generally speaking, puri is like a thin sheet of dough, which is deep fried, and as it deep fries, it kind of puffs up into like a ball. But the one we've got here is actually not puffed up, or maybe it was and then it deflated again. But as you can see, very much not 360 degrees.
The UK also has samosas, but our appetizer menus are very samosa heavy. So we've got lamb, chicken, and veggie, and we've also got samosa chaat, which is kind of like a deconstructed samosa. Samosa chaat is a popular street food in India. It's basically a broken up samosa with chana masala, yogurt, and other chutneys. You can get different kinds of chaat at various restaurants. Let's take a bite of the veggie samosa. These are so heavy. That is so good. Yummy. I'm not sure what kind of chutney this is, but it tastes like cilantro. It tastes very, very spicy. It's so delicious. There are also tandoori options. Tandoori is a high heat style of cooking that uses a tandoor, which is a type of oven. We have tandoori chicken and tandoori shrimp. I do want to take a bite of the shrimp. It smells really good. And it smells a little lemony, which I love. The char on it is what makes it taste so good, I think. It's really delicious, but the shrimp is still overcooked.
We got a few example tandoori dishes today, including this tandoori chicken. Here we have some lamb tikka pieces. And then on the menu today, we also have chicken shashlik. There are some similarities between tikka and shashlik dishes. The differences actually come more in the marinade. So tikka traditionally has yogurt, whereas shashlik tends to have no yogurt in the marinade, instead using more things like tomato and other spices. Moving on, we have a couple of biryani dishes. Biryani is a rice dish that's wildly popular all across the Indian subcontinent, Asia as a whole. Basically, like a lot of cultures have a version of this dish. You effectively just take a bunch of rice, loads of spices, often a meat including a chicken or a lamb or vegetables, cook them all down in one big pot. It's a dish that's often shared between maybe a family or even cooked in an enormous batch for some kind of like group celebration like a wedding. We have two versions today. We've got a chicken biryani and also a veg biryani. One thing that you often find in a biryani is cardamom pods. Yeah, the cardamom really comes through in that. Really flavorful. Big fan.
Next up, we have all of our biryani dishes. So we have vegetable, chicken, shrimp, and lamb. I'm gonna try my third shrimp dish just because I'm determined to find one decently cooked shrimp. Is biryani traditionally more dry? Because this kind of tastes dry. The biryani did come with a side of raita, so I think I want to try them together. The shrimp is actually not that bad in this one. It's the least hard of all the shrimps I've tried today. I think the addition of the raita was definitely needed because it needed some moisture. It needed something to help soften up that rice again. So together, I think they're pretty good. Separately, less good.
Many Brits like to enjoy their curry with a side of rice. Depending on where you're ordering from, you might find a lot of options for rice. The two most standard ones I would say are A, just plain rice, and B, pilau rice. Plain rice obviously is just boiled and steamed, whereas pilau rice is cooked down with a bunch of spices, maybe some butter in there as well. Often it'll have this slight yellow color, which is usually given to it by the inclusion of things like turmeric or cumin. Notable ones there include things like the keema rice, which has pieces of minced meat in it, usually lamb when you see keema on the menu.
Moving on to what's probably gonna be my favorite section, we have the breads. We have regular naan, garlic naan, onion kulcha, coconut naan, cilantro naan, and roti.
At a UK curry house, naan generally comes in a bunch of different forms. We just have a plain naan over here. Here we have a keema naan. Keema refers to minced meat, so typically this will come stuffed with some meat. I love a keema naan. It does feel like you're squeezing unnecessary meat sometimes into the meal. Here we have a garlic naan, maybe the most popular choice for most Brits because it's effectively just garlic bread, which we love. Here we have vegetable naan. It's kind of full of like, almost like a vegetable paste. Definitely some potato going on there, various other herbs. Here we have a Peshwari naan. This is what I will sometimes go for, although it can border on too sweet. Peshwari is coconut. So it's like a powdered, desiccated, spiced coconut mixture. Because if you're having a really spicy curry, this can work really well to kind of counterbalance it.
I am interested to see what a coconut naan tastes like, so let's dig into this one first. That's not bad. That's actually quite delightful. I'm enjoying eating it. Okay. I could see this being really good with the more savory options of curries, a little sweet and savory, sweet and spicy mixture. So that's a surprising one, but a good one.
Next up, we have a paratha. So a paratha is like somewhere between a bread and a pastry, because you generally get this like kind of lamination going on. Lots of butter in there. So you get these lovely like flaky layers. Tends to have like a bit more rigidity to it, so it works quite well to scoop dishes like a dal. We also have an egg paratha here, which is the same, but has kind of been like fried in some egg. Here we have a chapati. And then finally we have the puri. Again, I wouldn't say this is the best representation I've seen of a puri before.
Now let's try the onion kulcha. I would order this. This is yummy. This one has more of like a texture element because of the pieces of onion in it. So that's kind of fun, and it tastes really good.
So poppadoms are a pretty iconic British curry house staple. Some people like to ceremonially smash them with a big karate chop down the middle. When you get poppadoms though, arguably the main event are the sides that come with it. I would say traditionally at a minimum, you get these 3 dips, and they've also given us a big thing of onion today, which I guess works too. This one is lime pickle. As the name suggests, it's fundamentally a pickled lime dish, although it's often quite spicy, so there's a bunch of chili in there as well, some other maybe peppers, capsicum, and it all forms this quite thick, spicy, very tangy paste. It's got some kick. Woo! Then you often get a mint sauce. I can't stress enough that this will not usually come in a tub. I think it's because of the size of the order that we had to put in today, they thought we were maybe feeding a small army, so they've given us enormous tubs of these sides. My normal favorite dip for the poppadoms is mango chutney. Sweet, tangy, works really well with all of these. We also got a raita today. This is the UK version of raita. So raita, again, is a yogurty-based sauce. This one has lots of cucumber in it. Very refreshing. Again, if you're ordering spicy curry, having one of these on standby is a must, just in case you get caught unawares. And then, as begrudged as I am to admit it, one of the most iconic side dishes on a British Indian restaurant menu is chips. Chips, for me, I think are a real signifier of how well Indian cuisine has managed to adapt to the British palate. Not all British people like spicy food, although I will say it's probably slightly more than Joe tends to give us credit for. I will say chips and curry sauce has become such an iconic pairing, kind of as a result of this. Also, just dipping chips into a korma is a really iconic British Indian takeout move, which, again, is probably going to upset actual Indian people, but it is good. Don't knock it till you've tried it.
Next, we have our sides. So we have an order of papadum. Papadum is made with gram flour, which is chickpea flour. The papadum came with a side of 2 sauces. We have a tamarind chutney and a cilantro chutney. Just like I mentioned before, how the white rice usually accompanies the curries, these 2 chutneys accompany samosas, papadums, usually your side or appetizers. We have more sides like raita. I think this is another sauce that varies from place to place. We also have mango chutney. And of course, we have our side of white rice. We got like 20 of these because of all the curries that we ordered. I've never had papadum before, so let's try some. I'm gonna mix these 2 sauces. I made a little perfect bite. I'm gonna take a loud bite, but just know that I'm not a loud eater. I just want you to hear how crispy this is, okay? It's so chippy. It's got like a chip consistency to me. That is really good. Usually when you go to an Indian restaurant here, they'll bring out the papadum and some chutneys as like a starter, you know, like a chips and salsa kind of vibe. I am gonna try the mango chutney as well with the papadum. Okay, big ol' scoop of mango chutney. It weirdly almost has like the taste to me of a briny olive. Maybe it's like a vinegar or something that they've added to it to give it a little kick. There's something briny in it, but it's really good.
It's difficult to do a drink section in our normal way because the offerings will vary wildly depending on the restaurant that you're ordering from. The place we ordered from today actually didn't deliver any drinks, but I did want to give a quick shout out to lager. Getting a pint with your curry is pretty much key to the British curry house experience. I don't really know where this started. I think there's a certain association with blokiness and curry houses in the UK. Or again, it might just be the fact that Indian restaurants wanted to appeal to the things that Brits most commonly wanted. Often that includes lagers. But there are a few specific lagers that you generally find on the menu at Indian restaurants that aren't commonly found elsewhere. I think just because they are pretty much only found on Indian restaurant menus in the UK, Cobra, Tiger, and a few others have really achieved kind of cult status.
We also had several flavors of lassi on the menu. Unfortunately, I could only get one delivered, the mango lassi, but they also have sweet lassi and salted lassi. It does smell like lassi, and it does smell like mangoes, so I'm pretty sure this isn't just a huge cup of vodka sauce or melted cheese. It's room temperature, which I don't want, but it tastes really, really good.
Something that we did in the Chinese takeout episode that I was keen to do again was to plate up what I think is a kind of typical British Indian takeout plate. I'm going to do one here now. Nico, I think you should do one in the US as well. We'll start with the starters. A couple of bhajis going on there. Probably a couple of samosas too. For kind of the foundation, generally speaking, I want rice on there. So we'll get some pilau rice. Break it up a little bit. Start with the rice on the bottom and kind of layer the curry on top. And then all the rice is soaking up all of that gravy, all that sauce from the curry. Obviously, if it's a British Indian takeout meal, you gotta have your chicken tikka masala. Oh yeah. I'm gonna mix meats because I want some lamb in there as well. Here is some of the lamb Rogan Josh. Beautiful. Look at the tomato. I need some naan, which for me usually means garlic. I often find a whole naan is too much, but half is probably about right. And then for me, I've also got to get some saag paneer in there as well. I think for me, that's like pretty much everything I want. Obviously some poppadoms to start with plenty of mango chutney, and maybe, guilty pleasure, a few chips on the side as well. That for me looks pretty excellent.
It is time to make our plate of American Indian takeout. So let's start with our white rice. I'm just gonna pop that in there. Whole thing. Okay, that's a lot of rice. I don't think we'd eat this much rice, but here's our rice. Next, we are going to go in with one of our curries right on top. I would say, if I had to guess, I think that butter chicken is probably the most popular curry amongst Americans. It's either that or chicken tikka masala for sure. But I don't know, I just feel like the American palate would more lean towards the butter chicken. Butter, we love it. If it was up to me, we'd be doing the lamb vindaloo or one of the other vindaloos, but let's stick to what I think the American public would want, which is butter chicken and chicken tikka masala. Let's do a little mix of both. Here's our butter chicken. The tikka masala and the butter chicken look almost identical. Next, I think that we're gonna add a samosa for sure. This one's a veggie samosa. Maybe we'll tuck her right in there. So right next to our samosa, I added the dipping chutney. So we have our cilantro chutney and the tamarind chutney. Of course, we have to add some naan. I'm going for the garlic naan. I feel like this is a really popular option here. The last thing that I would add is a mango lassi because I usually order a spicy curry that helps tame and balance out some of that spice, so it's a must-have for me. But this is what I think Indian takeout looks like in America. I think this gives us a pretty good idea of what people here are ordering. This is how I would eat it. This is how I like to eat my curry, along with, I think, a bajillion other people. Just tear off a piece of the naan. I overstuffed this plate so bad. And just pick up a huge scoop. I don't think my chicken's gonna make it. Scoop of the curry and the rice. That's good stuff.
India is a massive country with many subcultures and different climates, so there's a lot of diversity when it comes to the food. For example, North Indian cuisine tends to favor wheat-based foods like naan.
South Indian cuisine tends to favor rice and lentil-based dishes like idlis and dosas. Weather and soil conditions also play a huge part in this. The South gets a ton of rain, which is ideal for cultivating rice. Seafood is also more common in the coastal regions of India. You'll see a lot of fish, shrimp, and crab dishes. It is a peninsula, so that makes sense.
Many cuisines across the world have been influenced by globalization and colonization, and India is no exception. Foods like tomatoes, peas, cauliflower, chilies, and potato are now very common in Indian cuisine, but aren't actually native to the region. Tomatoes, for example, were brought to India by the Portuguese, who got them from Mexico, even though they're actually native to South America. Lots going on. The origins of many dishes that became really popular across the 20th century are still hotly contested. Examples include things like butter chicken and tikka masala, whose origins are still being debated today.
Some of the most important ingredients to come from India are spices. India is the largest producer of spices in the world, and the estimated total spice production in the country reached 11.1 million metric tons in 2023. Some of its most exported spices are cumin, cilantro, cardamom, and turmeric, the golden spice. I was just made aware that coriander and cilantro are the same thing. The history of Indian restaurants in America is a bit murky. Record keeping wasn't the best, but one of the first South Asian restaurants in New York City was the Ceylon India Inn, which was founded by K.E. Mankira in 1913. It catered to a lot of South Asian workers who lived in nearby boarding houses. In an article published by the New York Times in 1921, Helen Bullitt Lowry describes another one of the first Indian restaurants in New York City. She doesn't mention the name of the restaurant, but it's speculated that she was referring to the Taj Mahal Hindu restaurant, which opened in 1918. Aside from being a part of the quickly expanding culinary culture of the city, these restaurants also served as gathering spots for South Asian immigrants.
The first Indian restaurant in the UK, the Hindustani Coffee House, actually opened in London in 1810, which was 50 years before the first fish and chip restaurant in the UK. Even before that, Indian influence had been brought back to the UK as the Brits started trading in that region through the East India Trading Company. British coffee houses would often have curries on their menus. In The Art of Cookery Made Plain and Easy, a British cookbook from 1747, there was a recipe to make curry the Indian way. This recipe was fairly light on spices, but did include things like turmeric, ginger, and pepper. The colonization of India by the British led to more Brits being familiarized with Indian flavors and spices. Curry's popularity was boosted in England by Queen Victoria's love for it. She was given the title of Empress of India in 1877, and although she never visited the country, she really became fascinated by the culture of it, reportedly even learning some Hindustani. She reportedly also asked for curry to be cooked in the royal kitchens pretty much every day. Curry remained a dish mostly enjoyed by the upper classes in the UK until after the Second World War, when increased immigration from India to the UK led to an explosion in curry houses popping up all over the country.
Indian food in the US is a lot more generalized, so you'll see similar dishes on most menus. That's likely because they're catering to American palates and focusing on the dishes that people here would recognize. As we said before, India is a huge country with a ton of different culinary styles and ingredients, so what we see as Indian food here is just a small taste of that.
Nowadays, Indian restaurants are really found all over the UK. Just anecdotally speaking, I feel like if you grow up in a village or a town, pretty much wherever you are, you will have a curry house, a Chinese takeaway, and a fish and chip shop. The city with the most Indian restaurants in the UK is Leicester in the East Midlands. Leicester has 49 Indian restaurants for every 100,000 people living there. Brits love Indian food so much that at one point in 2001, our Foreign Secretary declared chicken tikka to be our national dish.
As somebody who did not grow up with any Indian food around me or in the home, I am really excited to see more and more Indian restaurants popping up, especially in these big cities. Takeout is not my preferred way of eating Indian food. I much prefer sitting down, having my curry freshly made right then and there in a restaurant. But I will say it's one of the better takeout cuisines I've ever had. It's weird because to me, Indian food is popular. It's something that me and all of my friends enjoy, but you leave a place like New York City and I feel like less people have tried it. I just don't think there's as much accessibility to Indian takeout places. It's not like it is with something like Chinese food where we have these mom and pop Chinese food places, but we also have these giant chains like P.F. Chang's, Panda Express. Yeah, they're not authentic to the cuisine, but they kind of give people a taste of an American version of that cuisine.
I think it does very much depend on which restaurant you're going to as to how authentic to Indian cuisine the British Indian food will be. Some of them may be pretty authentic, but in general I do think maybe when it comes to the bright red chicken tikka masala sauce that you might find, it's probably not going to be what you find in India, but British people do love it so much. We really, really do love our curry. I don't know. Can you see that? Okay, is it?
Yeah, it's weird. I've never seen anyone hold a naan up like that.
My trophy naan.